Today, Open Source Security is talking to Morten, aka Foxboron, and Levente, aka Anthraxx. They're Arch Linux developers and members of the Arch Linux security team. So, Morten and Levente, I'm ecstatic to have you here because Arch Linux, I feel like, is if there could be a UNESCO heritage Linux distribution, it's Arch. So why don't you two start out? I'll start with Morten because he's the farthest left on my screen, but, give us a little intro, kind of tell us what Arch is maybe, and we'll go from there.
Oh, sure. So Arch Linux is a Linux distribution that was founded in 2002 by Judd Vinet, I believe. He's a Canadian software developer. It's sort of, I think he was annoyed by Crux, so he wanted something else, a bit more usable. So he made he did. I think he did Linux from scratch, bootstrapped the distribution from that, and then wrote Pacman, which is the package manager. And these days, it's sort of one of these sort of unique Linux distros where we don't really do a lot of things out of the box. It's more of sort of choose your own adventure, to pick and choose what software you want, what desktop environment you want, how you want everything to run and go, and how you want to set it up. There's not a lot of hand-holding. These days we do have an installer which sort of can set up most of it up for you, but it's sort of just sort of been this sort of, I want to say, sort of archaic thing from days old when you had to do things yourself, bootstrap distribution stuff. But it's been working out for 23 years now.
Wow.
Which is sort of a long project, but none of us has been here from the start at all. I didn't know what Linux was in 2002. But this, I think, beyond that, I think we're most famous maybe for is the ArchWiki, which is sort of the resource documentation for the distribution that a lot of people use.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the, I think, short, interesting intro.
Awesome. And Levente, what about you?
So I'm Levente. I'm an open source software engineer, and I joined Arch in 2015, which is 11 years now. Oh man, time really flies. I didn't even notice.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so and you two are members of the Arch Linux security team. And I asked you to come here because obviously this is the Open Source Security podcast, and I feel like there is a lot of value in, first of all, just kind of understanding what does it mean to be part of the security team for somewhere like Arch. But then I also want to just talk about the fact that, like, one of the things I've noticed, and I'm sure many, many listeners have as well, is whenever I search for a question about some Linux thing I have going on, I would say 80% of the time I land on the ArchWiki, which is amazing. And one other thing is your security vulnerability data is amazing that your team publishes. So let's just start with kind of the Arch Linux security team, and what does that mean? And like, how big is it? What do you do? What's going on there? I'll let you two can thumb wrestle for who gets to start.
So Levente started this, so let's start the team, so you can begin, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe I can give a small rundown. So today we're 7 members in the security team, but it didn't used to be like that. So when we started the efforts, that was actually even before I was officially part of Arch Linux.
Nice.
So in 2014, there was this crazy idea, how about actually running a security team for the distro? I know, crazy idea. Before that, there were a little bit of efforts here and there, but it was really very unstructured. There was no really a team behind it or anything like that. And then some ideas started to circulate also by using the wiki, actually. So just a bunch of tables trying to keep track of all the information.
Wow.
And out of that, basically, we did like a small kickoff, brainstorm some ideas. And then in 2014, we were founding the Arch Linux security team, which is now like the official team in Arch Linux. And 1 year later, I joined as a package maintainer, and that was kind of interesting. So I was already part of the team before
Nice.
being part of the team. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Morten, I'll ask you the question then. What does like the day-to-day look like when you're a member of a Linux distro security team?
So I think at this point it's important to sort of prefix that none of us are paid to do this work. It's all volunteer based.
Thank you.
I think it's extremely important. And I also think it's important to point out that even though there is a team and we do deal with security things, it's important to point out that the team is a bit burned out because of the CVE ecosystem itself is sort of not necessarily in a good place. And sort of consuming the fire hose that is CV data is extremely difficult, especially if you don't have the resources to sort of dig through it on a day-to-day basis. So at some level, that's sort of important to point out that even though there are activity, it's not that much activity that it used to be. It dropped off, especially after the liberalization of the CNA setup. So these days, sort of mostly deal with sort of what's sort of high severity things that needs to be dealt with, and then sort of low severity, medium severity stuff is. I mean, some packages act on it, but we're not necessarily going to do advisory on it because people are burned out. But like day to day, it's mostly. I mean, being there for the team is important. Having people that sort of understand CVEs and can handle patching and sort of understand how to communicate with things. A lot of this is at some level also sort of open source intelligence based. So we do chat with members from other Linux distro security teams, exchange information. Somebody going, this looks strange. Is this a CVE anybody else has seen and stuff? And then so people do trade patches. So a lot of the work previously was sort of track time patches. Linux kernel patches is always interesting because people don't know which patch relates to which CV and how it gets fixed. Chrome stuff is interesting to deal with. They do a new release and do like 20, 30 CVs, and you don't know which patch belongs to which CVs. So it's mostly sort of just dealing with those sort of monthly, weekly releases and then sort of figuring out what was the important stuff and what should be acted on. Most of it is through sort of OSS security. You have the distro embargo list, but you also sort of have IRC channels with us and other security team members from things like SUSE, Ubuntu, Debian, Red Hat, Alpine, NixOS, Gentoo, so sort of exchanging information on a need-to-need basis. So it's mostly just staying on top of what is important and what's less important.
Which is a huge job. I mean, I remember I was doing this work, it was probably a decade ago at Red Hat, and it was already ridiculous at that point.
Yes.
And I will say it always pleased me that all the security teams, whether they were competitors or not, or their management liked each other or not, all of the Linux security teams got along quite well, which is, I'm glad to hear that's still a thing.
Yeah, and like Red Hat does a lot of amazing things, especially like if you're not sure if the CVSS score from Mitra is correct, then you can at least go check Red Hat, and most of them are a bit more correct.
Yeah.
And this previous year, now I'm not sure how true is this, but previous years, previously Red Hat did a lot of the enrichment stuff around CVs. So if you didn't have all of the context for the different CVEs entries, you could just look at the Red Hat the security database, and you usually had a little bit more information. A bit earlier before it was upstream to the NDD database. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, I also enjoy it very much. So sometimes sometimes it can feel like there is a competition between distros for the user base. But I never had the feeling that really also bleeds into like the security team. It was always a very pleasant interaction with all the different security team members from the different distros as well. It's very helpful, like trying to help coordinate what kind of patches you need to backport if there is no release, which of the software configurations may be affected or not. So I had quite a lot of chats with different people out there in the community, and it felt always very welcome. It's more like we try to keep everyone safe across all distros, and
yeah, it's quite nice.
For sure. Okay, you just said the word backport. What's a backport?
Right. So
that's a trick question, everyone.
I mean, it is, because it's also most of the time a little bit of a sad story. In a perfect world, we wouldn't actually need to do that at all. A backport actually is so software. I just try to describe it a little bit more high level so everyone listening may understand. So when you write software, it's tracked somewhere like nowadays mostly in Git, and you have individual patches which are commits for contributing to the project. And backporting essentially means if you have an old release, because development just keeps going, and they're not cutting a new release which contains the security fixes, then you need to do something to still not be exposed to that security vulnerability. And then you need to find out which of the patches are relevant to fix this security hole. And then you are basically applying this patch to the latest release. And that's called backporting patches on top of old releases.
And it's super common in the Linux distribution world.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, and that's kind of the unfortunate part, because that creates so much work across all the different distros. And in a perfect world, when there is any kind of security issue, then in my opinion, upstream should just roll out a new release and call it a day, instead of replicating all the efforts across all the different distros. And that's the unfortunate part. Yeah.
But the end result we do get is sometimes when there's embargoes and stuff, distros have a patch and they go oh, this is not going to apply on top of our super old release. So here's a backported version of this patch, and they'll just distribute it because others probably need it, which is a bit tedious sometimes, because then you end up with 3 or 4 different patches for the same security disclosure, and people need a different set of patches to fix it.
Oh yes,
but it's also sort of a collaborative effort though, which is sort of nice between distros. And for some people it's easiest, for some people it's harder to do. I think Arch sort of stays a bit more ahead on packed versions usually, so we sort of avoid a lot of the trickier backports where there's the CVE for major version 4, but you packaged major version 2, so you had to backport it 2 entire major versions behind. We usually avoid those issues to a large degree, so we just have to backport one minor version or one patch release version, which is not that hard usually. It just applies cleanly.
Now that you've said that, you're going to have something terrible show up tomorrow. That's going to be one minor version.
Well, maybe. I mean, it's Tuesday tomorrow, isn't it?
We'll see. Anyway. Okay. So I think one of the questions that is going to pop up is if you are a modern developer, you're probably doing NPM or Python or Rust or whatever. And I think the common method now is just to run the latest version of something. So this concept of backports probably feels foreign to a number of developers. Why even do this? Why not just, Arch, like you said, is a pretty modern operating system. Why can't you just keep running current on all of this open source?
Is this a question?
No, it's meant to be. I'm setting you up for an easy answer here. I know what the answer is, but not everyone does.
Some people can't run latest. Some people need stability in their life, so they would preferably use the latest LTS release of Ubuntu and get their enterprise patches on top, because it gives you some stability or some foundation to build a platform that can run for a year without you having to do larger iterations of the platform and doing sort of releases. While on Arch, breakages happen. Not regularly, but at some level you have to deal with new versions when you update, and you have to stay on top of that. You can't wait 2 years and then sort of expect things to work, because there's going to be a lot of software changes you need to deal with. Doing the stable release stuff sort of gives you a bit more stability on that front.
And it's probably worth pointing out that a Linux distribution has a very delicate web of dependencies, we'll call it. So if something just depends on an older version of another thing, upgrading that to latest is not an option, right?
Oh yeah, sometimes that's also a lot of work when we get into the area of package maintainership. Of course, sometimes you need to chase upstream to make a version compatible. And sometimes it also feels a little bit tedious to convince them, why can't you just run the old version? Because not every software ecosystem is designed in a way that you can run multiple versions of the same library or whatever. And then sometimes like that's not so easily possible, and you just have like your space for like the library, and you need to link against it, and that's just latest. And then sometimes you need to come up with like also supporting older library versions, but that's a lot of burden also for the package maintainers trying to figure that out. So the easiest is just to have whatever works, and convince upstream to like use latest.
Well,
That's not always easy. Yeah.
And these are volunteers, right? This isn't like someone being paid to do this horrible work of, backporting or upgrading or any of this.
I mean, that's the hard part also in Arch Linux. So all of us are volunteers, which means we have basically only intrinsic motivation. So either it sparks some kind of joy and that's why we do it, or just not getting done. So there's no extrinsic motivating factors like, okay, I get my paycheck anyway, so whatever, I'm gonna spend 8 hours now entering some CV data into Inform or whatever.
Yes.
Like last week, I worked 8 hours, came back. Was like, I need to fix the Go compiler. I tried build the new version of the Go compiler. The test suite doesn't work anymore because there's a memory leak thing deep in some sanitation code thing happening somewhere in the compiler. I think it's related to the glibc and or a new version of GCC. It's 7 in the evening. Do I want to do something else, or do I want to sort of stare at the Go compiler and the glibc C code for 3 or 4 more hours?
Right.
Sometimes it's a bit hard to find motivation. The answer to that question is that I disabled the test, so I'm not running the test, and I built and pushed the package because what else are you going to do?
Someone will file a bug. It's fine.
There was a bug filed in June, so it's not much more you can do.
I mean, again, like take it out of your paycheck, right? It's fine.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I wish.
No, I mean that's a big deal. I cannot stress enough how much of modern society is held on the backs of unpaid volunteers. And so like, thank you both for the effort, because Arch is awesome. And I know how much work this is. Like I was paid to do it and it was terrible. Okay, so I do have a logistical question for you. So you're talking about backporting security issues or upgrading packages to fix security issues or whatever. And so I don't know the answer to this question at all, but I'm curious, like, what is the dance between the security team and the actual package maintainer? Does the security team do all the work? Do you work with the package maintainer? Like, what does that look like?
It's all flat, really. So like it's like several of the security members are packagers stuff. So we mostly just work as sort of as more of a supportive role, really. Like if there is a huge issue, it's coordinated with the packagers because they know the upstream better than us. They know the source code well. They might even know the maintainers. So the logistics of again, it depends. Like, is this an embargo? Is this a public disclosure thing? Or it's just a vulnerable version. Sometimes we just deal with it because it says fine. Sometimes it requires a bit more coordination because they know something we don't. And other times it's literally, hello, this is a world-breaking security embargo thing. We are updating your package. You can't know why. So it sort of goes a bit, sort of depends a bit on the severity, depends a bit on the disclosure model of it, and it depends largely like how the upstream works, how the patch release, how they fix the patch first, or is it sort of a package update that just has to be done on the same day?
Okay, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah, for like kind of simple things, then mostly you maybe just ping the package maintainers. That's fine. Like also, like Fox said, you want to do some kind of coordination if it's like a high severity or really a very critical issue. But we also like most of the team used to not be package maintainers themselves. So it just kind of bleeds into like,
Yep.
if you do that work for long enough, then instead of annoying other people to do the final thing, like rolling the actual package, you can maybe just offer more help and do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess that's also the reason like why it's just a matter of time, but mostly everyone on the security team is nowadays a package maintainer as well.
This does not surprise me at all. I know how this works. And it's like any project, it sucks you in, right? 'Cause it's like, oh, fine, I guess I'll do it. And then before you know it, you own that thing. And it's like, oh no, what have I done?
Or you just do like, oh, we can just do this. And people go like, yeah, sure, go do it. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. Am I a maintainer now? And they go like, yeah,
Yep.
that's not what they call you now. And then suddenly
ya.
10 years pass and you're like, oh, wait, I'm still stuck with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Okay. Okay. It's funny because it's true.
Yes, and like I've been nerd snapped so many times. People go like, "I want this to work," and you're like, "Oh, but you can just do this," and they go like, "Yeah," and I go like, "Yeah, wait, that's not a lot of effort," and then suddenly you've written it, and then suddenly I have to deal with it.
Yep. Exactly. Okay, so I want to also ask you about the data you collect and the things you do, because you mentioned at the beginning about focusing on kind of what's important, which I think makes sense, because one of the, I think, difficulties in a Linux distribution is understanding that, there is a million pieces of work to do and you have enough time to do 100. So you have to figure out what are those 100 things we're going to do and those other things we're not going to do. So talk to me about, deciding what's important and what's not important and kind of what that means in this context.
I guess so. What it mostly first boils down to is that we first need to know what we want to assess, right?
Yeah.
So we need to have like the actual data, the information to make any judgment about priorities. And there already kind of starts the pain point. So basically, we concluded we are all intrinsically motivated volunteers in Arch. And the issue is like it absolutely does not spark joy entering the CV data for hours and hours. And where we started, so in 2014, it was just a very crappy wiki page. It was literally a table and people were just very motivated. This thing now exists. So that was their intrinsic motivation to put in all that work. But that kind of burned out. And now we get like a little bit back to what Morten said at the beginning, that there is also a little bit of struggle. We hope to be able to overcome it. But just let's explore more like how did we actually get there. So then in 2016, we developed our own security tracker, which is basically the platform you can see when you visit security.archlinux.org. And this one is not only presenting the data a little bit in a nice way, but it also helps the security team to maintain the information and the severity. Because we have like behind a login form, all the little bit more ease to insert the data, but also to track the data, to like triage the data and decide like what we really want to act on now, to have this kind of prioritization Josh, you basically asked for. But this also brings us again to a little bit of a pain point, why the team is a little bit burned out right now. And that also has a little bit to do like with the influx of CVs over the past couple of years. Yeah, and that just does not spark joy at all. And we need to find some kind of way to eliminate that busy work again. So some kind of data scraping. So yeah. But that's basically like what you can imagine we need to do before being able to assess.
Yeah. So previously it was all hand inserted. So we found a CV, we inserted, wrote all the descriptions, and now we realized like this doesn't scale anymore. So we need some way to sort of parse the CVE data stream programmatically, and then sort of have like a queue in our dashboard thing, so we can sort of just literally dump how to do most of the work ourselves. The issue is that that piece of work is hard, and it was very hard, at least in 17 and 18 before NVD published or proper Java JSON schema dumps of their data. Previously, it was mostly XML zip files, I think. They just published on their website, so there was no other way to sort of consume the CV data. And that's terrible. These days is better, but there's still sort of nobody that has volunteered to sort of do this work, and it is still a lot of work sort of figuring out how we're supposed to do all of that, considering the amount of CVs that get published each day.
Right. And for everyone listening, back in like 2016, 2017, that time span, you were talking about less than 10,000 CVEs a year, basically.
Yes.
Now we're going to break 40,000. I think we broke 40,000 last year. We were close if we weren't. Like, it's completely ridiculous. And what makes it even worse is NVD, as much as we love to hate on them, they were adding CPE information to CVEs prior to, was it 2023? Probably 2023 is when things kind of started falling apart. And now less than half of the CVEs have the version and package information NVD used to add, which now means your team is trying to now you've got, literally like 5 times the number of vulnerabilities, no CPE information from NVD, and yet your security team is basically the same size. So yes. That is ridiculous. I mean, if I worked at a company and they did this to me, I'd be like, I'm going to quit if you don't hire 5 people right now.
If it was that simple in open source.
I know, right? But I mean, look, this is such an important point, though. Like this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you two here. Is I don't think some of these struggles and difficulties are understood. I often hear people say things like, "Oh, the developers will handle it," or "Oh, let's add." Let's make developers use two-factor authentication or add, SigStore to their project or start using Zismo or whatever. There's all this stuff. And it's like, these people already are at the end of their rope. Like, you cannot tell them to do more things, because the fact that your team is holding this together as it is a miracle, quite frankly. Like, the fact that you guys are still keeping this all together is like, it blows my mind, just because I know how big and horrible this all is.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, you're exactly pinpointing the problem here. But in my opinion, it even goes a little bit further than that. So at this point, I also want to make a warm shout out to all the open source developers out there.
Yeah.
Because I think like people not just maybe not understand like what it means on our side as a security team member to do all this work. But there is also so many open source developers out there doing it voluntarily for free. And they're also burning out with all the pressure and people like demanding things from them. And it's not like they're paying customers. They're providing service free of charge to like the whole world. And yet there are sometimes these very awkward demands, and that creates so much pressure on all the different volunteers, developers, projects, and security team members as well. So we just need more people, more help, basically tackling this from all sides, from the security team side, but also for all the project. Just go out there, help them get things done, and that's how we can keep this all rolling.
So I second what Levente wrote, and I can't help but think of this one hot take from Mastodon I read yesterday, I think. For every open source maintainer there is 2 burned out open source maintainers arguing about the sustainability of open source.
Oh yeah,
I think that tracks. I think
I believe it 100%. Okay, so let's talk about what Levente just said. About helping. If someone out there listening does want to come help the Arch Linux security team, what does that look like?
So I mean, that's a sort of composite answer, because at some level it's sort of being active in our IRC or Matrix channel. I think it's on Matrix, and sort of helping, sort of watching out for important stuff. But at the same time, the team is burned out, so there's not necessarily a lot of people acting on it. What we really do need is somebody who's invested in sort of improving how we consume CVs, so it's easier for us to actually act on the data stream that is CV, so we can actually automate more of it. because the act of sort of being aware of a CVE and then linking it somewhere and expecting somebody to deal with it is sort of, we already have several people doing that. We don't need more sort of reminders. What we do need is sort of people helping us sort of improve our tracker and sort of figuring out how we can realistically consume this information flow. Because if we don't solve that, we can sort of just add people to our problem, which is sort of people helping us punch in CV data. But at that point, we're just sort of providing burnout as a service, and that's not that's not sustainable. So it's sort of the we sort of need help with the tracker, frankly, and then when that's done, we can maybe try help onboard more people that's interested helping us tracking CVs and patches. But it's still sort of this pipeline of consuming CVs, how do you act on them, and also sort of engaging the package maintainers, because the package maintainers out of this is not better, and that's also important to realize.
For sure. And I feel really bad that I laughed at your joke, burnout as a service. But
I mean, that's open source in a nutshell. But it's a lot of hot text now. But it's sort of interesting. It's true. So you sort of have to figure out how you can make things as enjoyable as it can be, so people don't burn out. But it is hard when you're sort of dealing with this. Lately, I mean, like a bunch of security companies are now also consuming the data you publish, either voluntarily or involuntarily, and that sort of adds to the expectations of like a service that's sort of supposed to be available. I know Alpine has had a bunch of issues with people consuming their city data stream improperly and not doing it in the right way, and that sort of just adds more pressure to the security team. So it's sort of what would you say? The more sort of VC-funded security companies we have, you sort of get introduced more problems into this sort of ecosystem as well. So it's sort of you need more help with the tracker, and then we can solve maybe other problems as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree that this would certainly be the best priority, but we would surely also be. I mean, Fox really hit the spot there. So I also don't want to trick people into getting a burnout, but we could still. So one part we actually haven't talked about yet is the advisory part. So one thing is getting the software patched and getting an update rolled out to our repositories and our mirrors. But that doesn't mean necessarily that it already arrived on the end user systems. So obviously the users need to update their systems to receive the security fixes. And there are a bunch of stories along the way when you're a package maintainer, when you realize there are so many people who are updating their systems differently than you would do it. So I personally update it sometimes multiple times a day. I just want to really get all the juicy stuff in as quickly as possible. But then you realize there are people out there who update their system maybe once a month is already a lot, maybe even less, maybe once every half a year. And that's where security advisories really become very important, because if you're not getting the message out there that it is worth upgrading, then probably you're going to delay it if it's not very important for you. And that's a part where we are currently, because of the lack of volunteers, they're also struggling a bit. So right now we are essentially only sending advisories for really the very, very critical things. Mostly those things were also on some kind of embargo list and coordination up front. So really the very nasty stuff. But it would certainly be very helpful if we can also revive that a little bit and get more news to the people to allow themselves to judge when they want to upgrade their systems.
So somebody on RC was like, how do you guys host your RC bouncer setups? And I was like, I set this box up a decade ago. And I was like, wait, when was the last time I updated it? So actually I went and checked yesterday. And it's been up for 1,400 days.
Excellent.
And I'm not quite sure why it's running kernel 4.19 yet. I think that was released in 2019. So
nice.
If you're curious about how security conscious people are dealing with this, I should probably go update that box.
I am completely sympathetic to this problem. It's okay. It's all right. It's an IRC bouncer. It's probably fine. I mean, it's probably fine. Just keep telling yourself
Well,
it's fine. It'll be okay.
That's fine. I can close the terminal again. I don't need to look at this.
See, there you go. There you go. Just hack the uptime binary to not show you the
just
uptime.
null out the four digits. Yes.
Yeah. Subtract 5 years from this number.
Yes. That's
And we probably all see this picture which with the burning background and like this small slogan, "Everything is fine."
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I get it though, right? You have a limited amount of time and resources, right? And you're going to do the things that matter the most. Especially as security people, that's what we do. Like, I get it. Yeah. Anyway, okay. We're gonna wrap this one up. I have one last question for the two of you because I don't know the answer to this either. So I see the memes everywhere that I run Arch Linux, by the way. Do you guys love those or hate those?
Should I go first?
I can explain the origin. Actually, I can explain the origin of that meme and why I hate it because it's terrible.
Please go ahead.
So everybody here that's listening on this, that's above the glory age of 25, probably knows what 4chan is and what the technology board on 4chan is. Yeah. So before Arch became popular in sort of the 2010, 2011 area, it was sort of Gen 2 that's sort of the meme distro.
Yep.
So what happened was that sort of in around 2010, 2011, Arch gained popularity. I'm not sure why. But then people sort of inserted that they solved it this way. And by the way, I'm using Arch. And then sort of people want to troll. So they do sort of I use Arch, by the way, meme. So that's sort of where it originated. The issue is that during 2012, 2013, a lot of the 4chan internet culture that's sort of playing in internet today jumped over to become mainstream internet culture through Reddit. So all of the sort of IT tech memes that we're seeing today sort of just froze in time in 2013 and never progressed. If the meme culture jumped in 2010, we would have the same jokes about Gen 2 instead. And that's, just the internet culture just froze. We just sliced off 4chan into 2012 and 13, and we just continued pretending like this is our culture now. So I personally don't like it. I'm so tired of it. I cringe every time I hear the meme internally.
Fair enough.
I can certainly understand that, but I have quite the opposite feeling about it. So I do love those kind of things because it keeps us at a good spirit, actually. And
I mean, you have the Arch characters behind you, I think? No?
No, right now. No, not right now. Yeah, that would be an amazing reveal, but no, unfortunately not.
No.
But like I find it a little bit like playful because you're not always just taking you very serious, but also like have this little bit of fun to all the work that's behind the curtain. And as long as if it doesn't get fully out of control, then I think it's a very healthy thing also for the community, and it keeps us gluing together, and you joke about it, and I think that's like just a very entertaining thing. But I agree, like it got stuck in time, so we use this kind of meme for like a lot of years now, and probably more years to come. So we also as developers still pick it up. Like when we do a presentation, I've seen it so often that our own people say like, "I use Arch, by the way." So like, but overall, I do think like a fair amount of memes is like very healthy for the overall community and keeping up this spirit. There's also this Uwu kind of thing. So we now have also Arch Linux Uwu stickers, and so we try to find like the next thing for our memes. So yeah, I do enjoy them. Yeah.
All right, for everyone listening to the audio version of this, it is clear from Morten's face that he just died inside a bit. That's his explanation.
He can enjoy this. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh my god. Okay.
He can have his joy.
I love it. I want to thank you both. This conversation has been absolutely fantastic, and I truly appreciate your time. So Morten and Levente, thank you so much, and thank you for everything you do with Arch Linux. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for being on your podcast.
Awesome. All right. Until next time, gentlemen.